Welcome to another dreadful side quest where we dive into some of the world's strangest and funniest topics and or stories. My name is Vlad, and today we're going to be covering some of the most terrifying legends that you've probably never heard of before. We've all heard of legends. We've heard of the Wendigos, the Skinwalkers, all that good stuff. But today, we're not going to be talking about any of those. I have racked up a few of the most bizarre legends I could find, some terrifying ones, might I add, even though I just said it a minute ago. And I've made a little compilation of stories for you. I will say, as a big cryptid fan, paranormal fan, urban legend fan, I was shocked at quite a few of these. Some of these actually sent chills down my spine, so I'm really excited to share that with you. Also, before we start, I just showered. My hair looks like a wet dog's hair. Over the course of the video, as it dries, you will see it start to grow and evolve, kind of like a Pokemon. But enough of this, let's get started with some of these legends. The first legend we're going to talk about is the legend of Milkwhite. There is another legend that is not this one out there about a ghost horse, which is very boring compared to what I'm about to tell you because this is a little bit intense. And I've actually come across two different versions of the story that I'm going to tell you. One that I was able to find on the internet, and then another one that I've actually heard from the horse's mouth from a local who lives in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Now, the main story does take place in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. It's a very, very small, tiny county in Wisconsin. If you don't live there, you've probably never heard of this before, is what I was told. I was also told that even people who live in the bigger city in Wisconsin don't even know about this legend either, which is crazy. So that's how little known this legend is. The story begins in the Sheboygan Abandoned Asylum. The asylum has a dark and unsettling past, with rumors that patients were subjected to cruel treatments like electroshock therapy, lobotomies, or inhumane confinement. I can almost guarantee that that stuff was going on in this asylum, because if you don't know much about Victorian style asylums, they were not the happiest place to be. This was a time when nobody understood mental health, and instead of doing treatments on patients, it was more like experimenting on patients, and a lot of the time it would end up killing the patients or permanently damaging their minds. Some versions of the story suggest that the asylum was shut down after a series of mysterious deaths or violent incidents involving both patients and staff. Another thing that was extremely common with asylums back then, a lot of violence, a lot of death. That was the reason why most Victorian-style asylums would shut down back in the day, because of straight-up cruelty. But enough of that, let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend himself, Milkwhite. The first version we're going to start off with is the internet version that I was able to find. The figure known as Milkwhite is described as a very pale figure that haunts the abandoned asylum. The name Milkwhite is often attributed to the ghost's pale, ghostly complexion, which is said to glow faintly in the darkness. His skin with a milk-white hue. The backstory of Milkwhite is a crucial element to the legend. Depending on the version, Milkwhite could be a ghost of a young woman who was an unwilling inmate at the asylum, a patient who was mistreated, or even the spirit of a nurse who witnessed horrific cruelty within the asylum's walls. In some tales, Milkwhite is the ghost of a child who died under mysterious or cruel circumstances, often tied to the abusive treatments used at the time. One version of the story suggests that Milkwhite's spirit haunts the asylum after he was wrongfully institutionalized or subjected to unethical treatments like lobotomies while being locked away in a dark cell for many, many years. As the legend goes, Milkwhite's ghost roams the asylum at night, weeping softly or whispering eerie sounds. His presence is often described as cold, unsettling, and faintly glowing, with some accounts suggesting that he appears as a silhouette of a pale man or child, his face either obscured or twisted in sorrow. Milkwhite is often said to manifest near abandoned halls, patients' rooms, or underground chambers of the asylum, places that were either neglected or thought to be too dangerous to enter during the institution's operational days. The ghost is said to flicker in and out of sight, vanishing when approached, leaving behind a strong sense of dread. Cold spots and sudden changes in the air pressure are common phenomena associated with Milkwhite's hauntings. Visitors who encounter Milkwhite's ghost are said to be plagued by nightmares, suffer from inexplicable feelings of despair, or even fall very ill in the days following their experience. Some versions claim that those who come too close to Milkwhite might even become possessed or driven to madness by the tortured spirit, mirroring the torture he experienced in life. So yes, that's the internet version. It's your classic ghost story from what I'm hearing. Very creepy though. But the next version I'm gonna tell you that I heard from a local themselves is much worse than just that. It is a lot creepier. This one I was like, shit, I would be terrified to live in Sheboygan County. So what I was told by this local is that yes, Milkwhite was a tortured man at the asylum. He underwent a bunch of procedures that didn't go well for him, and then he was just kind of locked away in the basement of the asylum for years and years and years, practically being starved with nobody to talk to and just going insane day by day by day. Now eventually the man who was Milkwhite did pass away. The asylum did become abandoned by the county, and several years later, the legend of Milkwhite arose within the town. So once the legend of Milkwhite was in full rage, a bunch of children in this town started going missing at night. Nobody ever found out who this was. This was the 60s. They couldn't track down the person who was doing this. But since the legend of Milkwhite was going strong at the time, people decided to associate Milkwhite with the disappearances of the children. It was said that Milkwhite would sneak out of the asylum every night around midnight, crawl into the town ringing a little bell for all the children who were still awake to hear. It was said that if you were a child and you were not asleep yet, Milkwhite would go around peering in through windows trying to track down all of the kids who were still awake. He would then break the windows, crawl into the room, and kidnap the children and bring them back down to the basement of the asylum where he could finally have a friend to play with. Of course, they never found any children in the asylum, but just the thought of that is very unsettling to me. I am not a fan of that. There's something about pale, underfed figures ringing a bell in the middle of a town in the middle of the night that just freaks me out. I don't know. It's pretty damn ominous. But I'm curious, if there's anybody out there who actually knows more about this Milkwhite figure, I would love to know more. Please say something in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. The legend of Milkwhite in the asylum serves as a haunting reminder of the dark, forgotten histories of the institutions that were once meant to provide care, but instead became places of torment. Milkwhite, the ghostly figure tied to these haunted asylum grounds, stands as a tragic symbol of suffering and mistreatment, a spirit forever seeking resolution in the afterlife. Yup, terrifying as hell. I'm standing my ground on that one. The next spooky little creature we're gonna talk about is the Hopkinsville Goblin. The Hopkinsville Goblin was an extraterrestrial encounter that occurred on the night of August 21st, 1955, near Hopkinsville, Kentucky. The event involved a family who claimed to have been attacked by a small goblin-like creature at their farmhouse. The story has become a notable case in UFO lore, contributing to the alien encounter narrative in American culture. Over the years, the creature encountered that night has been referred to as goblins, greys, or little green men, though they are generally described as having unique physical characteristics. The Hopkinsville Goblin was described as being around 3 feet tall. The creature's eyes were large, round, and glowing with an unsettling brightness. The skin was described as grayish or silver toned, and the creature had clawed hands. This sounds like something like straight out of Harry Potter. I don't know why I'm picturing this thing kind of cute in my head. I mean, granted, it was probably like traumatizing for the family, but still. The incident occurred when the Sutton family, along with some of their friends, were staying at the Sutton farm. The family members and friends, including Billy Ray Taylor, who had recently arrived at the farm, reported seeing strange lights in the sky. They also described the bizarre creature approaching the farmhouse and interacting with the occupants in threatening ways. The primary event unfolds as follows. The family saw humanoid creatures outside the farmhouse. These were being described as about 3 or 4 feet tall, with large heads and glowing eyes and spindly limbs. At one point, the family claimed the creature was approaching the farmhouse, trying to peer through the windows and even grabbing at the doors. Billy Ray Taylor and his companion Elmer Lucky Sutton reported firing at them with firearms in an attempt to defend themselves, though they claimed the creatures seemed impervious to the bullets. It was hitting these guys, but it wasn't doing any damage. They're pretty much invincible. As the night went on, the creatures continued to appear around the farmhouse, prompting the group to barricade themselves inside. They were terrified and attempted to get help from the local police, though when the law enforcement arrived, they found no trace of the creatures. The creatures' movement was also unique. They said that it moved in a jerky, uncoordinated manner, almost as if they were not fully grounded or were floating. I take back what I said earlier. This thing ain't cute. If it's peering in through the windows at you and trying that doorknob, seeing if it's unlocked, no. I'm good. I also hate things peering in windows. If you're one of the people out there who sleeps with your windows open or your curtains opened, you're a psychopath. There's gonna be some peeping Tom or goblin or whatever the hell looking in at you, and you're gonna regret that decision. Ugh, chills. I hate that. Now, this next legend is the legend of the Flatwoods Monster. This one is not very known, but at the same time, it has become more popular due to the game Fallout 76, which had its upbringing of the Flatwoods Monster once they added it into the game. But this is a West Virginia cryptid. I've actually visited Flatwoods multiple times. It is the tiniest town you've ever seen. I'm not joking. You can walk from one side of the town to the other side of the town in quite literally 5 minutes. It's also completely dead. We went there was not a single person there except for the worker in the Flatwoods Monster Museum, which is an awesome place if you're ever driving through West Virginia and you come across Flatwoods. Absolutely stop by and go there. It was really cool. But not a soul in sight besides the lady working in that museum. Also, most of the stores and houses there were like abandoned and it looked like nobody's lived there for a really long time. Creepy ass ghost town. The Flatwoods Monster, also known as the Braxton County Monster, is now one of the more famous cryptid sightings in the United States, particularly associated with the region of Flatwoods, West Virginia. The creature was reported to be 7 to 10 feet tall. Damn! That's taller than that tall girl in that movie Tall Girl on Netflix. I hate that movie so much. It's so dumb. The most iconic feature of the Flatwoods Monster is its spade-shaped head, which resembles a helmet or exaggerated crown. The head was often described as smooth, metallic, or glowing in appearance, and some accounts describe it as having an angular or pointed edge. The eyes of the monster are frequently described as red glowing orbs or eyes like lights that may have blinked or moved independently. These eyes are one of the most unsettling aspects of the encounter. The body of the creature is typically described as humanoid, but with a broad, bulky torso. And now for the first encounter of the Flatwoods Monster. On the evening of September 12th, 1952, a group of local children, including Edward and Fred May, and their mother, Mrs. May, were outside of their home near the town of Flatwoods when they saw a bright, fireball-like object streak across the sky. The object seemed to crash or land on a nearby hill. The children, curious and excited, ran to the location where they believed the object had fallen, and they were soon joined by their local school teacher, Shirley Harlan, along with her 2 children and a few other townspeople. As the group approached the hill where the UFO had allegedly landed, they reportedly came upon a strange creature standing near a patch of woods. The creature did not appear to move aggressively or directly towards the group, but instead it was described as standing still or slightly shifting in place, almost as if it was waiting or observing. There are conflicting reports about whether the creature emitted any sounds or if it was silent, but several witnesses claimed that they felt an overwhelming sense of fear, nausea, and potentially from a strange foul odor in the air, which some attributed to the creature or the UFO it came in. Shirley Harlan, the school teacher, one of the adult witnesses, reported feeling a strong oppressive feeling of dread when the creature's eyes locked with hers. The group was also reportedly overcome with an unusual mist or green fog that appeared to emanate from the creature or the crash site. After several minutes of staring at the creature, the witnesses reportedly fled the area in fear. They later sought help from local authorities and reporters. In the aftermath, a search was conducted, but no physical evidence of a creature or the UFO was found, though some people claim to have seen unusual marks or scorch marks in the ground. I love the Flatwoods Monster. Just the design of it, just the way it looked from the way it acted is just so creepy. Like, it wasn't trying to hurt anybody. It crashed and it was just kind of like,
alright, so nobody's gonna give me a hand? Well, shit, I came to the wrong planet.
and then he dipped, basically, is what I think happened. Next time I go to West Virginia, because I always take a yearly trip to West Virginia, we go to Point Pleasant to see the Mothman, and we do an overnight paranormal investigation at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and then we also go to Flatwoods. So next time I go and do that, I'm gonna make a vlog, I'm gonna upload it so you guys can see everything. It is such a cool place. It's just run down and small, but that's the charm of it. That's the beauty of it all. Now, this one is actually a very little known urban legend. It's very short, but it freaked me out. When I saw this, I was like, holy I need to add this right now. Very disturbing, and it has to do with a serial killer. It is known as the dog-licking hand. This classic urban legend centers around a girl who is home alone, and her dog is keeping her company. While in her bed, she reaches down to pet the dog, who licks her hand. The next morning, after hearing news of a killer being on the loose in her area, she discovers her dog has been murdered in the bathroom and written in blood on the wall, "Humans can lick 2. The twist of the legend plays on the idea that somebody may have been in the house pretending to be a dog, licking the girl's hand. I hate that so much. Ugh. Also, why would you lick a random person's hand? You're gonna like contract the plague or something. I don't know. But as for this girl's sense of security, shattered. She's never buying another dog ever again. And last but not least, we have the black-eyed children. Now this one is probably the most well-known legend out of any of these, and it's children with straight up black eyes, no color whatsoever in their eyes, creepy as shit. The black-eyed children tend to exhibit unusual behavior that differs from normal children. They may speak in an emotionless or monotone voice, and their speech is often described as sounding unnatural. They generally ask for help, often requesting a ride or asking to come inside a person's home or vehicle. They are sometimes described as being persistent and demanding, and in many cases refuse to take no for an answer. You know, that's when you pull out the baseball bat right in the head. No more children, no more problem. In some accounts, the requests are so forceful that the person feels a sense of compulsion to comply with them as they are being manipulated. They ain't getting in my house. You can't bullshit a bullshitter. Most of the stories revolve around the black-eyed children appearing at night on residential doorsteps or car windows. They may appear like regular children asking for help, but when the door or window is opened, the unnerving features become apparent. In one well-known case, a man reported that 2 black-eyed children knocked on his door late at night, asking to come inside. When he hesitated, they became increasingly insistent and even started saying things like,
"Let us in. We're not going to hurt you."
I feel like it's common knowledge that they're probably gonna hurt you. He was overwhelmed by a sense of fear and did not let them inside. Okay, that was kind of anticlimactic. He was just kind of like, nope. Very valid reaction though, very valid. It's kind of like a vampire vibe I'm getting here. Like if they're not invited in, they cannot come in. So what you gonna do? I also probably shouldn't be mocking these things because I heard that by mocking them or even just talking about them actually kind of summons them. So if I get a silly little notification on our Ring doorbell tonight, I'm gonna know who the hell it is. In another instance, a person described how a young girl knocked on his car window while he was parked, asking for a ride. She was with a boy. Both children's eyes were entirely black. They insisted repeatedly, and even when he refused, they kept asking with an unnatural calmness. This interaction made the driver feel compelled to leave, and after he drove off, he looked back but could no longer see them. Some reports mention that after each encounter, the children seemed to disappear without a trace, leaving no footprints, and sometimes the area around them seems unusually quiet or still. They might be seen one moment, but the next, they're gone. One theory suggests that the black-eyed children are demonic beings or soulless spirits that use the appearance of children to lure people into dangerous situations. Their black eyes might represent a lack of soul, and their actions may be a prelude to possession or harm. I literally said this next one a minute ago. Psychic vampires or energy harvesters. Some believe that these children are entities that feed on fear or energy. The overwhelming feeling of dread experienced during encounters might be their way of harvesting negative energy. The children's strange behavior, such as their ability to manipulate emotions or induce fear, support this theory. I ain't taking any children, not letting them inside my house. Nope. A day without children like that is a good day for me. So the black-eyed children were actually supposed to be our last one, but I decided to throw in an honorable mention for all of you Mothman fans out there. I love this guy. I love the Mothman. Some might even say I'd crack a cold one with the Mothman. Seems like a pretty chill dude. But I hate to burst your bubble because the Mothman was indeed faked. I went to the Mothman Festival last year. It was awesome. I love the Mothman Festival. Holy shit, it was such a great experience. It was so cool. There were so many vendors selling unique items and stuff like that. There was the Mothman Museum, the Mothman statue. It was just incredible. If you guys ever get the chance to go to the Mothman Festival, do it. Immediately. You will not regret a thing. But yeah, I got to meet the guy whose friend faked the Mothman. He showed me pictures of the whole getup that they were using to fake the thing. They terrorized the teens and everything. But let's get into the actual story so you guys can get more of an input on what happened. The Mothman is one of the most famous cryptids in American folklore, and its legend is most closely associated with the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Descriptions of the Mothman usually depict a winged creature with large glowing eyes, often described as the bringer of doom or disaster. The first widely reported sighting occurred on November 15, 1966, when two young couples were driving near an area known as the TNT area, a former World War II munitions site just outside of Point Pleasant. So I've been to the TNT area. It's awesome, super wooded, super creepy. They do have these really big World War II bunkers that are just left there abandoned. They used to store ammunition in there, weapons, bombs, and stuff like that. It used to be a hideout for the soldiers, and it's just left there abandoned. You can walk down the little path through the woods, then you can actually go into these bunkers and look around. It's super cool. The witnesses, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett, were driving when they saw a large creature with glowing red eyes emerge from the woods. It reportedly followed their car as they drove away at a high speed, and they described the creature as having large wings as well as a human-like shape. They later said they saw the Mothman fly, soaring just above the ground, keeping pace with the side of their car. So this guy, he wasn't screwing around. He was following these guys. He was like, I ain't letting you out of my sight. In the following days and weeks, numerous reports came in of similar sightings, not just by residents of Point Pleasant, but also by visitors and hunters in the area. It was also said that Mothman was the cause of the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant. Survivors of the collapsing of this bridge claim that they saw Mothman just flying over the whole disaster. And a lot of people think he's an omen of bad stuff and all that crap, and that he caused the collapse of the bridge. Now this story has just gotten so out of line. Like at the time in 1966 when all of this was in full rage, like the core of all the stories and everything, people were saying that they were seeing like the men in black wearing black suits, black sunglasses, black hats, just walking around kind of checking things out, seeing if there was aliens around and stuff like that. And when I went to the festival last year, I was also told by a local who has lived in Point Pleasant their entire lives that back in the 60s when this was all happening, they actually shut down schools for up to a week at a time because people were so afraid of this Mothman creature, which is crazy, but that's just the level of belief people were at for this thing. Granted, it's an awesome story. I love this thing so much. I love the Mothman. He's a classic. You cannot convince me otherwise. But that's where I'm gonna wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned about the spooky legends of America and a few theories tossed around here and there about each one. I thought this was very interesting. I had a lot of fun with this, and I learned about new creepy shit that I didn't know about before, so I ain't complaining. But as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe with your little tiny fingers, and I will see you guys in the next video.